Hello, and thanks for joining us here. My name is Darrow Crahur, and I'm delighted to have with me Patrick Mullins, who's on the cusp of winning 14th, I think, amateur jockey's title. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. 22 grade ones as a jockey and multiple winners in Punchestown, and a lot of those grade ones there too. Thanks a million for joining us, Paddy.
No problem at all, Dara.
Um, the season, obviously, it comes to a conclusion at the Punchestown Festival. It's been another very successful year. In terms of your earliest memories, like, what has Punchestown always been important? Has it had a standing in Closutton?
Sure, of course. Look, it's it's the main. I suppose it's the main Irish festival. Really, it's the end of the season. I would remember it showing my age when the Saturday was the first day of the new season. The Saturday used to only be just an ordinary day's racing, so it was a bit shorter. And of course, mine growing up, my memories are me to being the perennial champion trainer, and us, never thinking we're going to beat him on the amount of winners. We might beat him on prize money, maybe. So trying to win the big prizes at Punchestown was important. But obviously, it's a bit different now. So my earlier memories of Punchestown are much different than they are now. Yes.
And talking of those in terms of the horses and that, who were the sort of highlights earlier before you were riding, of your dad's?
Yeah, well, the one that stands out, I suppose, Flora Pearl was the horse when I was growing up. He was the, big white face, the red colours with the O'Learys from Cork. And, him winning the Heineken Gold Cup as it was at the time under Larry Geraghty, that stands out as that would have been maybe, it could have been 2000, 2001 maybe 2002, in around that. I'd have been 10 or 11, 12. That's the standout memory for me. And obviously he had some great battles in Punchestown with Native Upmanship with John Durkin, but earlier in the season.
Yeah. And speaking to your dad this time last year, and he spoke of the sort of natural amphitheatre that is Punchestown, and I suppose as a track and as an arena. What is it like as a track to ride on? Now you've been riding in it 16 odd years or thereabouts. What's it like to ride on?
Yeah, well, look, the festival track is obviously, there's such a huge amount of land in Punchestown. The track changes throughout the season, but the festival track is quite big in galloping. But oftentimes, I remember the Land Rover, you'd often have a scatter horses at that sand road past the winning post, and then that first bend, for such a big track, the first bend can be quite tight, and the bend out of the back straight can be a lot of trouble on it. You'd often see a horse maybe go straight on, or you see a lot of horses get checked. It's you climb from the five to the three, and you run downhill into the straight, and the last nearly 200 yards is downhill again. So it is a track, and obviously the time of year is a track that it can often be hard to peg back horses in front. So to track, you're tactically aware. Pace is very important. But I think while it's a very fair track, it probably is a you can nick on a horse that jumps very well. Your jumping is worth a lot more around Punchestown than it is around Leopardstown, say.
Yeah. And obviously once you did start riding there, you've had a lot of successes in bumpers, obviously, but over fences and hurdles too. I mean, I'm going to throw some at you and I might leave some out, but probably earlier on, I'd say you got a great kick out of winning over the banks on Uncle Junior.
Definitely. He won in the Touche twice. He was a real character. He was grumpy. He had a big wart on his ear. He wasn't very pretty. And some days he'd go, some days he wouldn't. And we used to be way out the back oftentimes, and he'd fly home then. But I think his first Le Touche is it's definitely one of the favorite races of my career, if not the favorite. The year of the real wet winter, I think maybe wet year, it was maybe 2012. And we were running through puddles, and they took out the fences that day. We had jumped a hurdle as the last jump. And he had 12 stone 7 on his back. And we got up in the last stride to catch JJ Slevin on something. And, I just thought 12-7, 4.5 miles over banks, getting up and win a short head. That was for me what jump racing is all about, and I got immense satisfaction from that. And then obviously a couple of years later, we got up and beat Nina in a tight finish on good ground. And anytime you beat Nina was memorable. So he was a horse that gave me some fabulous memories.
And more recently, I remember, and you wrote about it, but the kick you got winning the Champion Chase on Undersoul. I mean, anyone who's ridden him got a kick out of it, be it David or Paul or anyone. Everyone comes back with grinning from ear to ear. But to win such a big race there, and did you beat Vauban that day as well? Was he in that race too? You got a buzz out of it, didn't you?
Yeah, well, look, Undersoul was he was just it was like a Duracell bunny. He was all go, and it was really a case of just sitting there. By the time I rode him, he was an older horse, and he was just a professional racehorse. He jumped off. He wasn't keen anymore. He just liked to get on with it. He wouldn't run away. He'd just be going a good gallop, and 10 strides away, you'd know where he was going to meet the fences. I'd ridden Vauban in Champion Chase earlier that season, and obviously he'd fallen. He was coming back off a year-long gap, and obviously Paul was back on Vauban. I was on Undersoul, and I remember Ruby had ridden Undersoul the year before, and had ridden a Norman race, but he'd maybe stacked them up from the turn out back to the home bend and got beaten. And I remember just watching it and thinking, I'm just going to roll the dice here and let him rock. So from the fifth last, you run downhill out of the back straight before you climb. I let him roll there, and we got 3 or 4 lengths. And I remember I wanted to wing the third last, but there wasn't actually a good stride there. We had to pop it. And you run downhill into the straight. I let him go again, and he kept going, and Vauban didn't catch us. And that was a huge thrill to win a feature race on a horse that has such a following as well for the O'Connells. They were brilliant owners, and they got a great kick out of it. And one of the great days, definitely.
Yeah, there was some ovation in the parade ring as he came in that day. For you as an amateur jockey, going up against the pros and all those guys in that caliber of a race, like one of the best, does that give it added meaning for you? I mean, you have the artillery, but you have to go and do it, and you have to do a lot to even be fit to ride at that level. What does it mean for you to win a race like that?
Definitely, and especially at that time, I wouldn't have been riding. Now I'm probably riding those races more often. Back that was 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
I don't think I was riding. Maybe 2018. But I wasn't riding them quite as often. So it adds an extra kick. But I think for anyone to win that kind of race is huge in their career.
Yeah, that was 2018, because it was, of course, the year before, wasn't it? 2017, where you did the grade 1 double on, I think, April 28th, if I'm not right. And that was huge, because for the first time in a long while, like, that won the title for your dad, but it also snuck the champion title for yourself, because I think Jamie Codd was on your tail that day too, wasn't it? So that must have been massive. We're talking Bacardi's and can't remember, you did the double that day, didn't you?
Wicklow Brave won the champion
Wicklow
hurdle.
Brave in the champion hurdle, yeah.
Montalbano actually had a treble on the day. Montalbano won the novice hurdle afterwards. That was obviously the year after the Gigglestown horse had left, and we'd gone into Punchestown quite a long way behind. And obviously the champion hurdle, it's the second last day of the season, the Friday, and we were gaining on Gordon, but we still weren't in front, and it was the second last day of the season. I was 5 behind Jamie. I'd started the week 2 behind him, and then he got a winner the first 3 days. And he probably nicked the mayor's bumper on the Wednesday, Mystic Theatre, and I forget the horse he rode, but he put me in a little pocket turning in. And so Wicklow Brave, I rode Wicklow Brave in the champion hurdle, and first time blinkers, he actually stood at the start. There was Labeak was in the race, and I think Diakali, there was a bit of a false start, and Wicklow Brave stood, and we jumped off last, and then he was just running and jumping. I think the horse in front might have been Identity Thief, and he was throwing it up and down. When you run down the side in Punchestown, it's quite steeply downhill, and I just remember thinking I wasn't going to disappoint him. And he was a 16 to 1 shot. You were able to roll the dice, So we ended up, like I said, jumping very well. First time blinkers, we got a long lead and we held on. I think my 10 to yours might have been second. Vroom Vroom Mag was in the race, Brain Power. But yeah, that was a champion hurdle. Like that was amazing. And obviously that I think got Willie back maybe. I'm not sure if that put him in front, but then the next race was Bacardi's. He got up to beat Finian's Oscars in the shadow of the post, Robbie Power. And maybe that put us in front. And then later in the card, I rode Monte Albano. Again, he more or less ran away at me. And Ruby actually came past me down to the last on a horse called Raven's Pass, who turned out to be a miler. And Monte Albano got back up. So that, you know, Jesus, to ride a treble and 2 grade ones, put Willie back in front. And unfortunately, I rode a winner the next day on Open Eagle in the big handicap hurdle, but I was 1 short. So Jamie ended up beating me 1 by 1 that year. So we didn't quite make it, but it was an amazing few days. All right.
And losing out yourself in that context, is that a big driver then to come back? I mean, because you had a lot, and you probably don't have to, but it strikes me that you've maintained this drive the whole time to come back and set new marks and set new records.
Definitely. Look, I remember pulling up on Wicklow Brave and Dave Mullins gave me a tap in the back and said, "Oh, that'll make up for not winning the championship." And I kind of shook my head, and David couldn't understand it. And you know, I remember at the end of we have our knees ups at the end of the meeting, and I actually went off and got a McDonald's on my own and kind of rang a friend in England just to chat. But I was obviously after having 4 winners, 2 grade ones, but to lose a championship was it was very disappointing, and definitely I was determined to get it back the next year. And because I feel riding for Willie, you should be winning it. And then obviously last season it went down to the wire again, myself and Jamie, and we came out the right side of it last year. But it gave me, not that I got no pleasure out of it, but I knew where Jamie was. I got no pleasure out of putting Jamie in the position where I had been. You know, when you put a lot into the season and you just come up short in the last couple of days, it is tough. Yeah.
And then you mentioned last season, I mean, I think you finished leading rider. You had classical, 2 more grade ones, Classical Dream,
Yeah.
Brilliant Stairs, and Echoes in Rain as well. Another great meeting.
It was, but your last meeting was last year was extraordinary. You know, probably a couple of factors. I think Henry's horses were out of form at the time. I think Honeysuckle was the only one who maybe won on the day. Look, Gordon had obviously had his troubles, so a lot of his yard wasn't there, and that, you know, probably opened up the door for more of our horses than normal to win. The competition, you know, the major competition weren't as strong as they normally are. But yeah, Paul and Rachel were obviously going down to the wire. He had to come back from an injury. He was riding in his riding out boots because his ankle was too swollen for his racing boots, and he obviously got the job done. And myself and Jamie were neck and neck, and with Paul not riding everything, I got to come in for a couple of night spares. And you know, Classical Dream was incredible. He went a ferocious gallop in that race, and he just traveled and traveled. I got some feeling off him, and that the one thing. So we're talking about things to aim for. You know, I've been lucky enough, you said, to win the Champion Chase, the Champion Hurdle, and the Stayers Hurdle in Punchestown. So I'd love to get the set with the Gold Cup. I was second in it on Jackadam to Bells Hill one year, but that's something. It's a hard thing to do now, but it'd be something I'd have. It would be very cool to be able to do before I retire. But whether it's to be or not, I don't know.
Have I left out any there? I picked out sort of 4. Is there a better day, or is there another real highlight day in the saddle for you?
I suppose going back, Vinny 2008, I think he was the first horse to do the Cheltenham Punchestown Champion bumper double. So I was only 18, I was in school, I was a kid, and that was very cool. And at the time, like, I didn't know what I'd be riding. Willie was always telling me I'd be too tall, I'm not going to be riding very long. And then again, 4 years later, Champagne Fever did the double as well, again in the pouring rain. And we of course, being a bit younger, we ended up going out to Naas and getting plenty of Champagne Fever. And the very next day was actually Uncle Junior in the two. So I was quite happy that we got up a short head rather than got beat a short head. I'd probably still be kicking myself, but no, we enjoy Champion Fever's win anyway.
And listen, you just mentioned that aspect to it, but that was always traditionally a huge part of Punchestown, wasn't it? The crack, I suppose, particularly after, you know, the laser seriousness of what had come before. It is obviously serious competition, it's huge prize money, but there was always a sense of an opportunity to let the hair down a little bit too.
Yeah, well, look, it's, you know, it's completely different than Cheltenham, and it's a bit more like Aintree, that there's not as much pressure. There is a bit more fun. It's a home game for us. Obviously, it's only 40 minutes up the road, which is a big help. So it's very enjoyable. And you know, the last day of the season is there, and there's always a little bit of a party there afterwards. And it's a feel good festival.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, you mentioned your dad always reckoning there's no way you'd be riding at this stage. You're 6 foot. What are you? 6 foot? 6'1"?
Just about 6'1". Just about 6'1".
Yeah. So, like, without going to, what do you need to do to be fit to ride? You know, and particularly in grade ones, like you're on a strict diet. I know you do a lot of running. It's not straightforward as it for you as it is for a lot of people.
Look, it's not. Look, as an amateur, it's fine. The bumper weights are fine. I don't drink pints or eat chippers, or I do have a sweet tooth, and to do the professional weights, once it gets under 11.7, I'd have to maybe watch my weight for a couple of days. But do I have to do more than anyone else in the weigh room? Not really. Look, I mean, if I was a professional jockey and they're trying to do 10.7, there's lads doing 10.7 there, and they'd be working as hard as I am, and not for rise that aren't as good. So I'm very comfortable with my weight as an amateur. If I was trying to be professional, it wouldn't be as much fun. Definitely, I know, if I have to be doing 11.2 or 11.4 every week, I can see why some flat jockeys it can be a little bit grumpy. That wouldn't be fun. But no, I'm very lucky to be able to be a reasonably reasonable weight and ride some great horses. So it's no more of an issue for me than it is for most lads in the weigh room.
And listen, obviously, as well as being a rider, you're assistant trainer, and you're coming off a fantastic season and another record-breaking Cheltenham for Willie. I don't know, how does it keep happening? I mean, what's the magic? How are you improving him? How are you getting bigger and stronger? Even though you've achieved everything there is and 2 or 3 times over, I guess you didn't lick your ongoing motivation up off the ground. It's in the DNA.
Yeah, well, look, obviously Willie, my grandfather was champion trainer, had Dawn Run, and Willie would have picked up plenty there. I think what sums Willie up is the year, we lost 60 giggles on horses. Willie would have been late 50s. He'd been champion trainer, 8 or 9 times. It would have been very easy just to sit back and, consolidate as such. But he didn't. He went out, he got more owners, he got more horses, got more staff, got more problems. Now we have more horses than we had before then. He's just always, being a good trainer is more than just having fit horses. He's well able to source good owners, and then he's able to source good horses for those owners. And that's the key. If you don't have good owners to buy quality horses, it doesn't matter how good a trainer you are. And you've got to have a quantity of quality horses. And that's it. We have so many expensive horses coming into our yard every season. There's new blood every year. And that's it. He's never sat back. He's continually looking for the next crop of horses. And the next crop of owners as well, because owners don't last forever. Graham Wiley obviously has gone, Gigginstown has gone. You see that with jumps owners, they usually, it's an expensive hobby. So most jumps owners are in it for 6, 8, 10, 12 years. Rich is unusual in that he's been here for so long. So I think that's a huge part, but he's always changing as well at home. Our gallop we've changed shape of it, we've changed the width of it. We've changed how we work the horses over the last couple of years. It's never a case of we're doing well and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. I think that's it. He's still got the ambition. And where he's at. And of course, now this year, I suppose you're looking at Cheltenham again. You know, we're going back to, you know, we'd have 4 or 5 winners. Gordon would have 4 or 5 winners. Again, Gordon's issues from last year probably knocked him back a few, which let us take a few extra, which is where we get to 10. So I'd imagine you'll find the balance will readdress itself over time. But this season has been fantastic. But I think there's probably a knock-on of that from what happened to Gordon last year.
Yeah. Again, you will have an absolute lorry load, multiple lorry loads in Punchestown, so we can only chat about some of them, and I will bring up a few, and if I leave out something obvious, you can bring my attention to it. But I'll probably start on Tuesday and move on, and like the Bective Stud Champion Novice, Serge Gerhard, what's he likely to go in the Bective Stud Champion Novice, the 2 mile race, or the Alana Holmes Champion Novice, the 2.5 mile?
Yeah, look, he's very versatile. He could go with either. He's won Grade 1s at both trips. I suppose it's going to be a case of, we have Dynamo and Stateman as well, and what way do you split the 3 of them up? So we'll have to see near the time what way Willie wants to do it. But Sargeras came out of Cheltenham very good. He jumped much better there. I don't know what got into him in Leopardstown at the DRF, but maybe, and you just obviously maybe feeling something on the day. But you know, I thought his performance at Cheltenham could be marked up hugely on account of how keen he was early on. But I think he's very versatile, and I think he'd be very difficult to beat over either trip, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, longer term into next year, he's obviously a champion hurdle horse, isn't he?
Well, I'd say nothing in Willie's is obvious. I mean, look, he's won a point to point. He's won a point to point, so he can jump fences, and he looks like a chaser. He's a chunkier type of horse, but his pedigree is quite flat orientated. So, and maybe if you see Constitution Hill is going to stay hurdling and going to take on Honeysuckle, is it the easier option to go chasing? So look, we'll have to see near the time, but he, like I said, he's versatile. He could go either way.
Yeah. And you mentioned Dynamo. I mean, definitely, you know, was unlucky to fall. Stateman was could be a Grade 1 horse hiding in handicappers' clothing. I mean, you have a lot of options there. El Fabiolo as well ran a huge race in the entry. I don't know, will he rock back out?
Yeah, look, El Fabiolo was probably very unlucky. The horse that unseated the third last just cost him 2 or 3 lengths, and then he missed the last and he got beaten the next. So he probably was the best horse on the day, but maybe John Baum was feeling the effects of Cheltenham. So, but he's a very good horse either way. We'll just have to see now, you know, when we do a few bits of fast work on later in the week, whether he's got over inch or not. He got a hard race, and it's quite a short turnaround. But he hasn't had a long season by any stretch of imagination. So he's a possibility. Dynamo, to me, Punchestown really plays to his strengths. Obviously, he's won there twice. Gave me a horrendous time last year. It was like wrestling a bear around. But I think probably hurdles helps him concentrate a little bit. It should definitely do after Cheltenham. But I think like it's a track that suits his strong running style. And then Stateman, I'd be very disappointed if he's not a Grade 1 winner in the future. And like he obviously showed plenty of speed to win the county hurdle. So like I said, we have to split them up. But there's a fantastic crop there going forward for next year.
Absolutely. And speaking of splitting them up, I suppose you won't be splitting these two up in the William Hill Champion Chase. You've got an Ergum and Shaq and Poursois, and obviously, you know, you had bad luck on Shaq and Poursois in Cheltenham. You were going well at the time, Paddy.
Yeah, he was funny. He walked into the third fence as well, and then got back jumping. But while if watching the race, you say I'm going well, and I probably was, but I wasn't surprised that he put down. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't feel he was giving me the feel I was expecting him to. I don't feel he was on his A game on the day, and I'm just disappointed that, you know, he shouldn't be making a mistake like that. And he made one earlier in the race as well in the third fence. So, look, I don't know. Well, it wasn't Shaq and Poursois, we know, but we know from last year. I thought maybe one of the races of the season was the Champion Chase last year. You know, Paul was fantastic on him, and the way he bounced him out. and that was a huge performance. The way he got Alejo just out of his comfort zone completely. So look, he's 10 now. Ergum is in his prime at 8. So it's probably going to be difficult for Shaq and Persois, but I'd be expecting him to be much more like his old self, and perhaps he's just, he always runs well around Leopardstown. He might just be a better ground horse as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fantastic race. It's going to be very difficult for Shaq to beat Ergum, but again, I wouldn't rule him out.
Yeah, I mean, he's put in 2 huge performances at the Punchestown Festival in the last few years, in the novice chase as well, when he beat Deputy Sai, destroyed him with Puppy Porn to play it that day. How has an Ergum been since Cheltenham? I mean, it's one of those weird ones. I don't know, does he get the credit as being champion chaser because did he get the credit he deserves because Shishkin underperformed and because Shaq fell? But I mean, it was so easy for him the whole way.
Yeah, well, look, it's returned into a grade 2 really in reality. But he travelled through it like the good horse he is. So look, we'll take it. A champion chaser, never had one before. But we will have to take on Shishkin again and settle it once and for all.
And Alejo has an entry there, but he also has an entry in the Ladbrokes Punchestown Gold Cup. He's obviously a beast at around a 2.5, 2.5. Are there still considerations of trying something else?
Yeah, well, look, his options are limited. We didn't go to Aintree. He put in a huge performance in Cheltenham. We thought asking him to come back that quick would be tough. And look, when we probably have two good horses in the 2 mile race, the 3 mile race would look the obvious one for him to go for. And it's not like he doesn't stay 3 miles. He obviously ran Melanindo very close in Champ over an extended 3-1 on better ground. He's at his optimum over 2.5. But he's still a very, very good horse over 3 miles. I do think he's slightly better left-handed. He does adjust to his left. But I think he, would I be surprised if he could win over 3 miles, good ground on Punchestown? No. But it probably it doesn't play to his strengths completely.
And obviously, just a word for the great hero, 2-time Cheltenham Gold Cup winner, Al Boone Photo. How did he come out Cheltenham, and will we see him one more time this season?
Yeah, he'll be out, again, he ran all right at Cheltenham. I think it turned into a bit of a sprint, which obviously suited a Plutard. It didn't suit our fella. Not that it made any difference, but I think he ran reasonably well, and he obviously ran really well here last year in second to Candace Obo. And I just wouldn't forget about him. I definitely wouldn't forget about him. He hasn't suddenly become a second class horse or anything. He's still a very, very good horse, and he'll be going there. If Alejo does run, he'd be very good spare to pick up.
Yeah, is he the one to complete your full house?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
On Wednesday, listen, Vasil Vega has been one of the absolute really exciting horses, albeit in bumpers and that, and it was great to see him go do what you thought he might do, and in what was a proper race in Cheltenham, with the right horse behind you, I guess. That would have taken a lot. Has he come out of it, and will he run in the Punchestown race and stay a champion bumper?
Yeah, he was. It was a fabulous race. So unusual to have two horses turn in head to head, and let's see who's best. American Mike and him. This will be the plan. All our good horses go to Punchestown. This race is worth more than the champ bumper in Cheltenham. So it'd be madness not to go for it. He's come out of the race bucking and squealing. Dave Porter is very happy with him. And better ground shouldn't inconvenience them. And obviously his dam used to go from Cheltenham to Punchestown, so hopefully it won't be any problem for him.
And obviously a few of the other bumper horses ran well there as well. I presume you'll be well enough represented again, Paddy. Yeah,
there's a winners of one as well on Thursday, so we'll probably send a few that way. But look, James's Gate ran a fabulous race in third. He only came into the yard just after Christmas, so like I said, Tornado Flyer was the last one who would fit that kind of profile. He could still be improving. Redemption Day didn't handle the ground in Cheltenham. He's a small, slight, quick horse. He just got bogged down. So I think on better ground, I'd forgive him his Cheltenham run. And we'll definitely see Bank Bistro obviously as well. He might not be as effective on good ground, but he's a bigger, heavier type of horse. But that's only a guess as well. He's never ran it, so it's hard to know. But we have an armada of good bumper horses, and again, like I said, it's a good crop going into next year.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the excitement about those. That feeds the novice ranks the following year. On Thursday, we have the Ladbrokes Champion Stayers Hurdle, and obviously we're looking at Classical Dream, who I presume disappointed a little bit in Cheltenham.
He did, but look, there was a start, just the difference. We got the good start in Leopardstown, and this day, because when they were walking in, Classical started backing up backwards, Paul ended up jumping off last, and suddenly we're 10 lengths behind Roaring Porter straight away. So was that just a swing? I was a little disappointed maybe how weakly he finished. He travelled up there very well, but I don't think that was him at his best, and I'd be disappointed if he couldn't win next week in Punchestown.
On Saturday, we have the Ballymore Champion 4-year-old hurdle, and Vauban was very good, I guess, doing what he had done and sort of cementing the form, with Fieldor and getting it back and Piper. How's he been since? I mean, he's clearly, your dad has made no secrets of how highly he rated him and would love him to be novice hurdling next year. Has he been good since, and will we see him?
Yeah, I'd imagine he'll go here. Again, I think the good ground of Sudan, he's a horse with a lot of speed. It turned into a sprint in the Triumph, and that probably really played to his strengths. But for him to be able to miss the last, and then pick up and run away from the other two, I think he's better than your average Triumph winner. So hopefully he can back that up. But I can't see any reason why the track or the ground wouldn't play to his strengths.
And what about Gallic Warrior? Obviously, there was huge shout about him before Cheltenham, and he probably ran a really massive race in Cheltenham.
He did. Look, the ground on the first day at Cheltenham was very, not that it was very quick, but it was proper good ground, quicker than it would normally be there. And Fred Winter was a very unusual Fred Winter in that they went very slowly. And we got beaten by a Galileo horse, or a flatbred horse, in a sprint on good ground. After jumping, he started to jump right, maybe just feeling the ground a little bit. He's a big, stronger, he's a jumping type horse. I think he's better than the bare form. I think he was probably unlucky on the day with circumstance. And is he going to beat Vauban? Maybe not. But he's definitely one. He's definitely one going forward to next year that we're very excited about.
And through the week, I mean, I'm only trying to pick there. I don't know if I left out any of the big guns. I may have, but what would you be looking forward to? All of them, probably.
Well, look, obviously the big race, you're looking at, Ergum and Shaq, and obviously you're looking at Alejo and Album, Classical Dream. We're probably not hugely strongly represented in the Champion Hurdle. Honeysuckle, again, will be difficult to beat. Sargeras isn't there. And Vasil Vega is obviously going to be fantastic. And looking back to Billaway, hopefully maybe we got nabs in the photo finish in Punchestown last year, but obviously we got up in Cheltenham, so you wins. As Dave Maxwell said, some days you're the dog, some days you're the lamppost. Hopefully it's a dog day this year, but he got a very hard race, so you have to wonder will that leave a mark or not. But I'm not sure we have anything for the Latouche. We might have a horse for the Ladies' Cup. Go by Sam. He won in Tremor there recently. I was second in the Ladies' Cup once on a horse called Boxer George. I flew home. There was some pointer out 20 lengths clear, jumped rubies, and thought he'll have to come back. He's gone too fast. And we flew home, got beat a half length, and it turned out to be Big Shoe. And I think we might have been giving him a stone. So that's the closest I got to win the Ladies' Cup. So I'd love to win that. Goodbye Sam could be one for that. He does jump a little bit to his left, which obviously isn't ideal, but the cross-country track is kind of right and left-handed. So we might take our chance and try win it.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Paddy, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat, look back a bit and talk about some of the horses. And well done so far in the season, and best luck in the last week of it at Punchestown.
Great. Thanks very much, Dara.